It's time for another art activity with Miss Bodine.
Hello Kipsters, it's Miss Bodine here for another art activity. Today we will be doing a draw with me because we already did our art activity craft for the week when we made our puppets. So fun. We looked around our house for things that we could use to make a puppet, and then we used our creative minds to come up with what kind of puppet we wanted and what we wanted it to look like. And then we took our time to create it. Today we are going to be learning some new vocabulary words and reviewing some old vocabulary words that I hope you have somewhere deep there in your brain. And then we're going to do a drawing or a painting if you have paint at home, but mine will be a drawing. So let's get started. Today we're learning about something called subject matters, and one of the subject matters that we are going to learn about today is called landscape. A landscape is a view of the, you got it, the land. A view of nature all around you is what we call a landscape. We've learned about that subject matter before. We've also learned about other subject matters like portraits, still lifes, abstract. Ooh, we haven't really gotten into abstract very much. Figure drawing, another one we don't know much about. Let's talk about all the different subject matters that you can do in art.
A picture or drawing of somebody's face, usually from their chest or shoulders upwards, is called a portrait. You got it. We've done a lot of portraits. Sometimes you can make a portrait of yourself. That's called a self-portrait. Good job. Then we have drawings or paintings of everyday objects that you can find around your house. It might be a bowl of fruit, it might be a vase with flowers, but if it's a bunch of objects that don't move on their own, we call it a still life. And if it's a drawing or a painting of a view of the outdoors, we call that a landscape. Sometimes we might differentiate a landscape and a cityscape. Let me show you what a cityscape looks like. Here's the famous cityscape by our artist from the Harlem Renaissance, Jacob Lawrence. Remember when we talked about this artwork called This is Harlem? So a cityscape is just like a landscape, except it's mostly buildings and streets and people, where a landscape is mostly trees and fields.
All right, let's review the 4 subject matters that we've learned about before in class. What is the word for the subject matter of a view of nature and the land? You got it. It's landscape. All right. What is a picture of a person from the shoulders up? That's right. It's a portrait. What is the subject matter for a view of a beautiful city with streets and buildings and people bustling around? It's a cityscape. And lastly, what's the name of a drawing of a bunch of objects like a vase of flowers or a bowl of fruit that doesn't move? You should know this one. It's a still life. All right, those are the 4 that you should be very familiar with. And today we're going to make a landscape. So let me get on my landscape t-shirt. All right, I just had to change into my Vincent van Gogh landscape t-shirt just to be part of what we're learning today, which is landscapes. So when we are going to make our landscape, we can do 2 things. We can think up a view of the land in our mind and in our imagination, or we could get permission to go outside and find a beautiful view of the land and draw what we see in real life. It's up to you. If you have permission and someone who will go outside with you, you could go outside and draw what you see in the land. Maybe you see houses, maybe you see a yard, maybe you see a hill, maybe you see a water tower. Or you could do all those things in your mind, which is so powerful. I could think up any view of the land I wanted. Maybe I don't live by a waterfall, but I can imagine one in my mind and draw the waterfall. To draw the waterfall, I'd have to draw a mountain and maybe a stream where the waterfall goes after it falls. Oh, it's so fun to imagine things. So I think even though it's a beautiful day outside, it's a little windy, so I'm going to draw my landscape from my imagination. Join me.
Also, before we get started, don't forget your parts of a landscape. Now, we learned this before, but this will be a review. So when you're drawing a landscape, it's important to make sure you have 3 parts. Your foreground in the front, which are the things so close to you that if you were in the painting, you could touch them. Your middle ground should go in the middle, duh. Those are the things in between you and the background. So in this picture, it's the lake and the hills and some of the trees. And then your last part will be your background, and that's usually your sky. But in this picture, they included the mountain in the background because the mountain is so far away that it's actually just like a background. So you have your foreground in the front, your middle ground in the middle, and your background at the top, which is also the furthest thing away. All right, to start our drawing of our landscape, you can use a marker, a pen, or a pencil. I'm going to draw with a marker so that you can see it clearly, but usually I'd probably choose the pencil so I could erase any mistakes. So I'm actually going to think of a cool landscape for my puppet. And my puppet is this cute little butterfly that I made in my other video that flies. So where would my butterfly like to be? You know what would be cool for a background landscape for my butterfly would be that waterfall idea I had. So a waterfall is hard to draw. Let me start with my foreground in the front. For my butterfly waterfall, I'm going to draw a hill, and my hill will go and stop right there. On my hill, I might have a few rocks, and I might have some grass that goes around my rocks. Maybe some grass just over here. And maybe a little flower. That's cute. Now I'm going to draw, so that's my foreground, the stuff closest to me. Now I'm going to draw my middle ground, which will be where my waterfall is. But first I'm going to draw my stream and the waterfall. The waterfall is going to come down into the stream like this. And here's the top of my waterfall. Better draw some rocks. And I always like to draw grass around this stuff. And you know what? In my waterfall, there will also be some rocks. I like to draw the rocks with a mostly flat bottom because that means the water is rushing around them. And there'll be some rocks in here. As I get close to the top, they might be smaller. They're kind of grouped over here. We'll have one over there. All right, so now my waterfall is falling down, whooshing around my rocks. And whoa, this one's causing a splash. So is this one. My water whooshes around, and there might be some foam coming up because when a waterfall hits the water at the bottom, sometimes it foams up kind of big because of the splashing, kind of like a bubble bath. There's some more rocks, and the water is leaving the waterfall and going into this nice, calm stream. Here's the hill, and maybe I'll draw some trees, just like in the example we saw. I better add some grass, some roots. And draw a tree back here, like in the distance. There's some trees back there. Cool. And I'll draw some ground right here, just to show that that's ground. And then over here, I'm gonna draw a huge tree in my foreground. And the tree isn't taller than the waterfall. The tree is in front of the waterfall, so it's bigger. It's all the way over here in my foreground on this little mound of dirt. So there's the bark on my tree. This is gonna be a hole. I bet a squirrel or an owl lives in there. And then here's where the top of my tree is. The bark has to go all the way to the top of my tree. And then from here, my tree will have its leaves. And it will probably go all the way around like that. Cool. And then my ground will go flat over here behind my tree. I better draw some rocks over here too. Okay, there's my waterfall. There's my foreground with my tree. And there is the rest of my middle ground where there's this hilly area and a couple of trees. I'll add some more pine-looking tree boughs in here. And in my background, I have the sky, which I'll just paint or color in blue. But you know what? This looks like it could come from a mountain because waterfalls often come from mountains. So I'm also going to draw back here in the very background some mountains. And maybe some more mountains over here. So technically those are also part of it. And lastly, once you're done with your drawing, go ahead and color it in. Just as a reminder, make sure that when you color in, you're trying to color in at our rubric level number 4. When we color in at level number 4, it means that we fill in all the spaces and we don't leave any white marks, and we also don't leave any scribble scrabble. So we try to color it in as smooth as we can. If you're wanting to challenge yourself, you can do what Miss Bodine is doing and add in shadows and shades to all of your colors to make them look more 3D. Here I am putting black in my rocks to make them look more like rocks and bumpy. Same with the water. I'll put in light blue first and go in and put shadows with dark blue in the water. Oh, it makes it look so pretty. When you're all the way done with your landscape, I'd love it if you send it to me so I can look at all your beautiful artworks and show them off.
All right, Kipsters, I'm still coloring. You see I'm not done yet, but I'm going to finish this video so you have a beautiful landscape artwork, you have a puppet from this week, and I'd love to see what you do with these when you collaborate with Miss Vaught on her puppet unit that's coming up. So look forward to her lessons, and also please send me your landscapes because I'm really excited to see the beautiful view of the land that you draw and color at home. Bye, Kipsters!